Hey, welcome to episode 165 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. Today, we are talking about just an amazingly important subject for all of us, calm in crisis. And, and we're going to be talking to nurse. Yeah. I just let me tell you about why this is important to me. I've always had great admiration for people who work in healthcare. Since my dad is a kind and gifted neurologist, you could say I was born into this love for the medical field. This respect has only increased in recent years as I've studied more about the challenges that abound in healthcare. With that, it's not just going to be me talking about my love for healthcare. You're going to be amazed by the story of my guest and his insights. Back in a minute. That's my best attempt at creating suspense. Anyway, back in a minute.
Today's guest, Rob Freese.
Hey, welcome back. Let me tell you about Rob Freese. Rob is a flight nurse, a registered nurse who transports patients to medical faculty on a helicopter or plane. Okay, I mean that sounds amazing in and of itself, right? But check this out. In his 26-year career, he's logged just over 2,600 flights. Yeah, you heard that right. 2,600 flights. That translates to thousands of life-saving efforts for patients who are critically injured or severely ill. Isn't that... Just think of how many lives this man's efforts have touched and saved. But I'm not here to talk all day about how heroic this man is. So let me just bring him on. Hey Rob, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good. Thanks for being on the Awkwardly Awesome podcast.
It is absolutely my pleasure.
So I love starting people off when they were young. If I had known you when you were 7 years old in Rapid City, South Dakota, first of all, how many times had you seen Mount Rushmore by the time you were 7?
Probably 25. I honestly don't know. We went there quite a bit.
Well, it's just amazing different perspectives on the world. Like, most people in the world have probably never seen Mount Rushmore, but you has. But it's just like a place you've always gone to.
You know, I've been very blessed to have been raised here in South Dakota. I mean, I was born in Iowa, but I've been here almost my entire life since I was about 1. So I've been very blessed to call this state home for as long as I have.
What have you loved about living your life in South Dakota?
I don't know. Maybe it's genetic. I just absolutely love the prairie. I love the fact that South Dakota is so varied. Everything from that, like here, the prairies to the Great Plains of Western South Dakota to the Black Hills. I just love it all. And the fact that we have seasons that actually this year doesn't seem like, and I'm not complaining, but it doesn't seem like winter wants to come, which is fine. But we have change of seasons, which I did live in Florida for a year, and that was really hard to not have that change of seasons.
Mm.
And I really like the people here. People are hardworking and very family oriented and very community oriented and care about each other. And I really like that.
Mm. Yeah, it's a great place for people listening. Today, when we're recording this, it's supposed to get in the 50s, and it's December in South Dakota. A little unusual.
Well, last year this time I think we had 2 feet of snow. So
It's like we were saying, the land of infinite variety. So anyway, if I had asked you at age 7 what you wanted to do when you grew up, what would you have said?
I think at age 7 I would have said play in the major leagues in baseball. I was very much a baseball kid when I was 7. As far as that, I honestly don't remember any like career goals back then. So yeah, I'm guessing I would say play in the major leagues.
What do you love about the game of baseball, or what do you love about the game of baseball?
Well, I love that there's each team has 27 outs, and you have those 27 outs to do as much as you can to win the game, and there's no clock on it. And there's a little bit of luck involved, but mostly it's skill and drive and grinding it out and being technically sound. And I don't know. I also like the fact that you fail if you fail 2/3 of the time at the plate, you go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's something about that because life's not, you don't win all the time, and it teaches you that it's okay to have a bad at bat, or it's okay to, get caught stealing a base because you're going to get another opportunity. And you just have to make the best of each opportunity.
So much in life seems to push us towards being perfect, trying to make our lives perfect. But you're saying baseball teaches us another way of being almost.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's impossible to be perfect in baseball. It's absolutely impossible. And even the greats know that, and they don't even try to be perfect. They're trying their hardest each time they're up there, but they know they're not perfect. So they're just up there trying to put the ball in the bat or trying to put the ball in the glove. And I also like the fact that there's no clock. Well, there is a clock now, but I like the fact that there didn't used to be a clock on baseball. It kind of evolved at its own pace, and each game was very different that way. So, but life changes a little bit. I guess I have to get used to things, but.
So how did you move from the dream of being a major league player to the dream of being a nurse?
Well, first I wasn't that good. And then I don't know, as a kid, my mom was a nurse.
What kind of nurse was your mom?
Well, actually she got into nursing education, but and she worked at nursing homes and at a drug and alcohol treatment center and stuff too. But she got into nursing education. And I was when I got out of high school and went to college, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Kind of thought I wanted to be a doctor. And I don't know, life kind of takes over and you float different places. And I was working in a mental health facility as a counselor and counselor supervisor, and the psychiatrist there had mentioned maybe he needed a PA. So I applied to PA school, and I had plenty of mental health experience, but I didn't have any medical experience. So the PA school didn't take me. And so I thought, well, I'll just go to nursing school. I'll get a 2-year nursing degree, and then then I can get into PA school. Well, I went to nursing school, and eventually, by the time I was ready to go to PA school, I didn't want to. I was enjoying being a nurse. Felt like I was doing good work, and the opportunities come up a couple other times to advance, become an advanced practitioner, and I just I guess once I started flying, I felt like I have the autonomy that I want in my practice, and I'm doing work that I feel is substantial and good, and that's how I ended up here. I mean, there's a period there after high school where I just kind of floated around and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and joined the Army and stuff then, and National Guard, but that helped kind of give me some purpose to my life. And then I got married. That gave a little more purpose to my life. And then while I was in nursing school, we had my first child, and that's when I, kind of buckled down and grew up, kind of more became a man, you know what I mean? And from there, it's been pretty steady progression to where I'm at now.
So you enjoy nursing. There's a wide varieties of settings you could be a nurse in. How did you choose to become a flight nurse?
Well, one of my wife's good college friends, her mom was a flight nurse, and I just heard, little snippets of stories, about this job where you get paid for being on an airplane and taking care of patients. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I kind of like that, because I've always had a very interest in aviation. In fact, at one point I had worked on my private pilot's license and decided that it was more important that I go back to college, because that's kind of expensive and I needed to pay for tuition. So I stopped flying. And actually wanted to be a helicopter pilot in the Army too, but my eyes washed me out of that. So I ended up actually getting to fly every day. I'm not at the controls, but it doesn't matter. So this was very appealing to me, because I have this fascination with aircraft and the fact that things fly. And I thought that would be a really neat way to make a living. Well, several years down the line, the opportunity came up, and I had kind of put myself in positions to get there. I mean, I talked to some people and watched and learned, and then I ended up flying, and it's pretty neat. But that was the first time I really thought about being a flight nurse, was when I heard about my wife's friend's mom.
What do you love about the process of flying?
Partially because it almost seems magical to me. I mean, I understand the physics of it, but even with that, I mean, it's just magical. The air going over the wing faster on top than on the bottom creates lift, and you're up in the air, and you get to see just miraculous things. Flying at sunrise and sunset are some of my favorite times to fly, because once you're up above everything, the horizon expands and the colors become very vibrant, and it actually makes me, like I was talking about South Dakota before, South Dakota at sunrise and sunset, when you can look for miles and miles and miles across the Great Plains, is just absolutely gorgeous. My phone is full of snaps that I've taken, just out the window of an airplane. Not, they're not professional grade or anything, but they just bring me great joy just to look back on them. It's just gorgeous. And like flying in a helicopter, that's amazing too, because I mean, theoretically, I'm not sure that thing should be in the air, but it is.
Mhm.
And I do enjoy that because it's you can land anywhere, you can take off from anywhere. You're not bound by the airport. So
So some people listening to you talk about the beauty of flying might feel their stomach sinking a little bit. And what would you say to someone who feels scared of flying?
well, first of all, I would approach it statistically. Statistically, you are far in greater danger getting in your car and driving to Hy-Vee than you are getting in an airplane and going anywhere.
Hy-Vee is a local grocery store for those of
Oh,
you
sorry.
listening.
But you are far more likely to get injured or killed in a car accident than you are in aircraft. The thing about aircraft are there's almost always multiple people in them. So when one does go down, when there is an accident, it has a bigger, like noteworthy or newsworthy impact than a car accident. But there's so many more car accidents than there are, even per capita. If you break it down per capita, per number of people that fly, per number of people that drive, driving is way more dangerous than flying.
So statistically,
Statistically. And then the other part of the flying that is fearful is, there's little bumps and jags in the air and kind of makes your stomach drop a little bit. And I've always liked roller coasters and fair rides. So I guess I just look at it like that. I mean, there's in the summer when things are rough around here, there's times we'll hit a air pocket and we'll drop and I just start laughing. It's fun, and not that's not for everybody. Not everybody likes that stuff, but I would just say if you set your mind to it that this is just a fair ride and I'm going to be fine. The pilots up front want to go home just as badly as I do. There's I guess that's how I approach anything. And I've been in some rough weather and stuff, and that's how I have to approach it. That the pilots are up there; they're trained to do their job. They want to go home and see their families every bit as much as I do, so we'll be fine.
that truth that the pilots want to go home as much as I do is a powerful way of looking at it. Like, I mean, talk about being a team of that. Everyone wants to land and go home.
Yep.
So it fascinates me. People are vast, and you are one of those people. So we're talking about your love of flying, and I want to touch briefly that you recently went out deer hunting. What is that experience like for you? Very much on the ground.
Actually, I really enjoy archery hunting. I enjoy rifle hunting too, but I've done it for so long and have shot enough that the challenge is a little lessened because I can shoot a rifle a long ways. Archery is not that same thing. Archery is you have to get within 60 to 120 feet of your target to get it, to have a good shot, to make a clean, ethical shot on it. And that takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of quiet time by yourself because it's not something you can do with other people. You have to be absolutely still and quiet. And I love it because it gives me a chance to sort the stuff out in my head that needs to get sorted out. I mean, I spent 4 days in that blind alone before I got my deer.
You said 4 days.
Yep.
4 days.
Yep.
How many hours is that about?
Probably 6 hours a day. 3 hours in the morning.
When you say a blind, would you please describe what that is?
It's sort of like a tent. that has movable windows on it, and it's camouflaged. And you set it up in an area that it blends in with the background, so that
And you were on the ground.
yeah, I was on the ground.
Okay.
I also did hunt out of a tree stand a little bit, but it was pretty windy. And while I'm not scared of heights, I don't like being up on a little platform in high winds. That's just not fun. I've taken care of people who have stood on little platforms in high winds and fallen off. So I decided to stay on the ground, or on the ground this year for the most part.
So you sat in this little blind for 24 hours. How did you coach yourself to remain patient and not like give up after hour 3 or hour 10 or hour 20?
Well, to be quite honest, your mind plays games on you, like at hour 3 and hour 10 and hour 11 and hour 12, that what are you doing here? There's nothing here. Why are you sitting here? Even though I had scouted this, my cousins who own the land had scouted it. We knew there were deer there. Your mind plays tricks with you, and that's kind of part of it. That's kind of what I like about it, is like you have to take control of your mind, and you have to take control of your body, because you're cold and you've been sitting on this little chair for all those hours and your legs hurt and all this stuff. And you have to just remain disciplined. But the thing I love about it is that while you're remaining disciplined, there's nothing else to do but enjoy nature and sort out the stuff in your head that you have to sort out. You know, your everyday problems. You know, I spent a lot of hours thinking about my everyday problems out there, and maybe I solved them, maybe I didn't. I don't know. We'll see. But but that discipline to do that, I think, helps me in my everyday life and my professional life, because if you stay disciplined and go with your training and go with what you know, you can accomplish a lot. So
speaking of your professional life, when we talked before, you say your work keeps you interested. Could you say more about that?
well, when I go to work every day, excuse me, when I go to work every day, I don't know where that day is going to take me. Most people,
Literally, you don't know what location your work will take you to.
well, that's true, and also it's true, I don't know where professionally what I'm going to have to do, or what I'm, what skills that I've developed that I'm going to have to use. Most people, when they go to work, let's say you go to an office, you have a pretty good idea what you're going to do for the day. Whether it's calling customers or crunching numbers or designing something or whatever it is. It's all important, but you have a pretty good plan of what you're going to do. I know that when I go to work, there's certain tasks that I have to accomplish right away, like checking bags and checking equipment and stuff that has to happen every day because it all has to work. But other than that, I have no idea where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do, or who I'm going to meet. So that keeps me very interested. But also working in critical care, air medical transport, my skills get tested on a regular basis, and that keeps me interested. I also do a lot of reading and journal articles. We all do. You have to stay on top of things. And that keeps me interested. And I've always been a fan of science, and, it's all science. I just, I don't know. Every day that I go to work, I realize that I know less than I thought I did when I went there that morning. And that's not a bad thing. It just challenges you to continue learning and keep your mind active.
So we often think of As a kid, I looked up to adults, professional adults, and I thought they knew it all. But you're saying what teaches you repeatedly how much there still is to learn, huh?
Yeah, I honestly every single day I feel like I know less than I did the day before because I open another chapter of something and all of a sudden there's all this information, um, and it's good. I mean, it definitely keeps me humble. I definitely am not don't know anywhere near everything. I can find most things, I know where to look to find most things if I have time and stuff, or I know who to ask, um, but and I think that's part of this job is you don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to find what you need when you need it.
You just need to know where to find what you need when you need it. That's such a good reminder because we have access to such a wide variety of information all around us.
Definitely. Things have changed a lot in the last 22 years that I've been flying. Things have changed an awful lot because they went from everything was on paper and we carried stuff in our pockets. I mean, our pockets were full of charts and stuff, and now it's just my phone, and that's it.
Mm,
And
mm,
not only that, but I have access to the entire internet off that phone
mm,
most of the time. Like not in the air, obviously, but when we're on the ground, like at a referring hospital or on the ground on a scene, generally you have almost always cell phone coverage there, so you can access the entire internet if you need it. Um,
mm.
it's not always conducive time wise to do that, but and I always have I can have contact with a physician back at my home base because we have a satellite phone. So
Mm,
I do have access to information that 22 years ago we did not have access to. um uh, that being said, I don't know that my practice has changed a ton. I certainly have access to the information, but back then I feel like we kind of had to memorize that information. So maybe things are a little smoother now than they used to be. But
that sounds really good. So when you arrive on a scene, what kind of range of conditions could you find?
well, like from car accidents, um, to people that are, people in car accidents that are barely hurt to people in car accidents that are deceased or very near deceased. Um, for medical scenes, you know, usually it's somebody that's having a stroke or in cardiac arrest that we go for. Um, um, the farm accidents. I mean, it's a very wide variety of things that we fly to scenes for, but usually it's usually vehicle crashes.
What are some things that people not in healthcare should know about emergency situations?
I think the number one thing is, no matter what, stay calm. Force yourself to stay calm. It's okay to be just terrified inside, but you have to take control of those emotions, because if you let the emotions take over, you're going to activate your sympathetic nervous system, the adrenaline in your system. And while adrenaline does some really good things, it makes you strong, it makes you hyper alert um, to threats, not necessarily to everything else, but it makes you hyper alert to threats. Um, get your blood pressure up, get your heart rate up, get you ready to either fight or flee. I mean, that's its whole purpose. Um, in a crisis situation, if you allow that to take over, um, the negatives of it is it causes you not to think quite as clearly, and it um, makes you focus on one thing, the most important thing, that the most important threat. That's what everything's focused on. Um, there's a lot more going on than that one thing. So I would say get control of that initial fear, that initial blast of fear, and then start thinking your way through it instead of acting instinctively, act rationally. And also act, not just react. The sympathetic nervous system is a reaction, but it's important to take action, not reaction, in those crisis situations.
So humans often like like they throw the initial blast of fear and then they're off to the races and the heads. How can we notice those emotions instead of reacting to them?
Some of it comes with practice, to be quite honest. I mean, I've been in those situations a fair number of times over the years in various situations between, the military and my job and, and just life, and so like everything else, the more you practice something, the better you are at it. And fortunately or unfortunately, I've gotten real good at it because I've been in situations a bunch. But I guess for somebody who's not, let's say you're not been in critical situations a ton, just that first fear, that first feeling in the upper part of your stomach, lower part of your chest, when the butterflies start, it's time to just take a second and take a breath and think. Actually force yourself to think, because once you start thinking, you can take control of, you can take control of your mind and not let that fight or flight take over. And it's death, fight or flight's there for a reason. I mean, as we evolved, we used to be hunted, by predators, and that's what kept our species alive, was that fight or flight. So now life's a little easier than it used to be. So, but that's still there, and we have to override it to accomplish whatever it is that we need to do, and think our way out of it. And I really think making conscious thought and taking conscious action is the first step to breaking that initial blast of fear. And it's okay. I mean, there's times I'm still scared inside the whole way through the whole thing. But once you've taken that initial step and kind of calmed yourself down and forced yourself to override that chemical blast of adrenaline in your system, things work out. I mean, you think clearer, I would say the worst thing you could do is freeze up and not do anything. Just take some action and it'll break that. So
Am I getting this right? You're talking very much about awareness, becoming aware of the butterflies instead of ignoring them, and then noticing that, and then using that awareness to start consciously thinking and consciously acting.
absolutely. Yep. And action, not reaction, is the important part, I think. I mean,
So what's the difference between action and reaction in your experience?
so reaction is, let's say somebody jumps in my face and pulls their fist back. My reaction might be to just punch them right there. But that's also an action. But that reaction, but that might be the wrong thing, and probably is the wrong thing. The action would be like defusing the situation, saying, hey, what's going on, consciously working on the situation, as opposed to letting your body take over and do what it thinks is right, instead of your brain taking over and doing what it thinks is right.
So you've trained yourself when you come on a scene to really work on a situation instead of reacting to a situation.
Right. As when I'm coming up on a scene or a situation with a patient, um, I kind of try my best to absolutely remove all emotion from it. And that sounds terrible that like you're cold, but usually in crisis situations, there's not room for emotion. You need solid, rational thought. So if you can depersonalize as much as you can, and then just use solid, rational thought, your outcomes will be better than if you rely on emotion, in my opinion again. But that's how I approach everything. Like critical is I take as much or all the emotion out of it that I can and say, all right, what are my priorities of work and what am I going to do to accomplish those priorities, and then just rely on my training and accomplish those priorities.
So, you mentioned priorities. How do you quickly assess what your priorities are when you arrive on the scene? Is
Well,
it handing out a Band-Aid first, or?
well, I look at what's going to kill my patient first, whatever that is, and however long that process may take, but whatever is going to kill my patient first, I need to stop that. And that's my initial priority. And then
So there's 1,000 things you could attend to when you first come to a scene. Maybe a vase is knocked over and you could pick it up or something. But your basic question is what's going to kill my patient first?
right. Well, actually, the first question is there anything there that's going to kill me? Because we're big on scene safety.
Mm.
That, you know, we're not military medics that, you know, our job is to sacrifice our lives, you know, in the attempt of getting somebody else. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't do something somewhat on. Oh, no, scene safety is important. We'll just say that.
And I mean,
so
the basic
right,
concept is if you're not alive, you
right.
can't
We
help your
can't take care of
patient.
anybody. Yeah, exactly. So the first thing we do is establish scene safety, and then I'm looking. So are there hazards that are going to hurt me? No. Okay. Now, what's the most important thing? What is going to kill my patient first? And then I do whatever I can in my power, my experience, and my training to stop that. And then once, let's say we get that stopped, then we'll move to the second thing. You know, is there something I can do to improve this patient situation? And then the third thing is there something I can do to make that more comfortable for the patient? And you know, on down the line, I have these priorities of work that hopefully I've established by then. Sometimes you don't get past the first or the second one, you know, but that's where that rational thought and getting control of your mind and your body is important.
So far we've been talking about your relationship to coming on the scene, but how important is team to what you do?
Team is everything to what I do. I have never saved a single life in my career. My partners and I have saved lots of lives, but I have never saved a single one. There is no I, there is just us. And I have established incredibly close bonds with the people I work with because of that. You have to absolutely trust the person you're with implicitly. That not only that they know what they're doing, but also that they know that you know what you're doing. And it's an incredible thing when you work that tightly with the team. It really is. I've made relationships that I don't know that you can form anywhere else, except maybe the battlefield. I don't know, because I'm, you know, have a little bit of a military background. I guess I always go to that kind of stuff, but I mean, there's something about sharing crisis situations with someone and getting through them that creates a bond that is very different than any of the other bonds that I know of.
Do you work with the same team members each shift?
No, we rotate around, but there's like 13 or 14 of us, and there's like 13 or 14 paramedics. So you end up working with, and over the years, I've worked with all of them. But some of them I've worked an awful lot more with than others, just by way scheduling and stuff goes. But no, we don't have assigned partners every shift. I mean, each shift we have an assigned partner, but it can be somebody different every day.
So if a person not in healthcare is in an emergency situation, what should they know about helping the emergency staff when they come to the scene?
Well, I guess the first thing would be step back, let the emergency staff get to the patient or get to the situation, and then answer the questions that are asked. Don't necessarily just start blurting things out, because there's a lot going on, and those emergency people that are there are trying to sort things out and make that plan to identify the priorities of work. And so extra information, too much information is a bad thing in that situation. It can really cloud things. And it's really important right at the beginning to get it right, to get your priorities right. So while a bystander might think that they're really helping by pointing something out or dragging someone somewhere, that might not be the actual priority that they're, especially like in a multiple patient situation, that might not actually be the priority that should be, and so trust those emergency workers and give them space is, I guess, what I'm saying. If they ask you a question, answer it. But if they tell you to do something, do it, if you're capable. But otherwise, just kind of give them space and let them do their thing.
So you're saying when emergency staff comes on the scene, the bystanders suddenly part of the team, but they're definitely not the leader of the team.
Right. Even sometimes bystanders have medical or nursing training, and that's great. I mean, they can provide care before that emergency team gets there, but that emergency team is who's actually going to be providing care for that patient until they get to the hospital. And so they operate on their own protocols and orders and such, and their own training. And so once they take over, they actually have to take over. Like that's the route that it's going, and I would say the biggest thing I can say is just trust in your emergency services people. Trust them. They're trained. They have their protocols. They're going to provide absolutely the best care that they possibly can to that patient and get them, where they need to be, so.
How about as a patient in an emergency scene? How can patients help the emergency personnel?
Just simply by, if they're able, answering the basic questions that we ask. I know that I've been a patient too, and it's hard, but remaining calm as you can. And there's a lot going on with pain and fear and all that stuff, but remaining as calm as you can, and answering the questions. And then understanding that you really are the most important thing in those people's lives right at that moment. And they're doing their absolute best. So if they do something that hurts you, they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to help you. And sometimes we may inflict some pain on somebody by trying to help them, so, and just that understanding that, we are not trying to hurt you in any way, shape, or form. We are absolutely trying to help you, and that you are the most important thing in our lives at that moment. I mean, that's it. You are our reason for being in that moment. So I don't know if that helps or is a good answer. I'm not sure. But
do patients ever try to help emergency personnel too much?
I don't know. I guess I haven't come up against that. But usually when we're called, by the time we're called to a scene, let's say, it's they're pretty sick or hurt by the time we get there. So no, I guess I haven't really run into that. Sometimes in inter-hospital transfers, patient will try and direct their care, which is fine. I mean, that's their right. But again, if it goes against our protocols and stuff, we can't do what they want. So without orders from doctors and stuff, and sometimes we won't get those orders. So I guess once in a while, it doesn't happen very often.
How do you deal with all the unknowns in a crisis situation without getting bogged down by trying to figure them out?
Well, it goes back to that. You make that your priorities of work and you start checking them off, and everything else that's happening outside that. Sometimes a patient can have a distracting injury, like they're bleeding, but they're bleeding quite a bit, but they're not massively bleeding. Or there's an injury like their knee is dislocated or something. It's very painful. It looks terrible. But that's not going to kill you. What could kill you is the fact that there's a fracture in the person's neck. And if they move wrong, then they're paralyzed or die. That those priorities of work, establishing that, okay, I'm going to make sure that the neck is secure before I move, make sure they have an airway, make sure they have a pulse, make sure their neck's secure. Now I can move down and I start checking things off. That's not going to kill them. That's not going to kill them. That's not going to kill them. Okay, now we can address this knee. It's being disciplined and focusing on those priorities of work that you establish. And in my case, it's focusing on what's going to kill them first. So I check that off. Okay, now that's out of the picture, what's going to kill them next? Check that off. And I work my way down to, once we get to where that problem is. So you do have to really focus and keep that noise in the background out.
Speaking of noise in the background and this, speaking of just noise in the background, you've also working in the middle of your personal life, and things are happening in your personal life that some are really exciting, some are immensely challenging. When you come on a shift, how do you put that all aside?
Well, sometimes it's really hard to do that, if not impossible. But most of the time, when I come on shift, I leave home at home for the most part. And hopefully when I leave shift, I leave work at work. That's not always right. It doesn't always happen again, but over the years, I have kind of just established this, okay, now I'm at work and this is what I'm focusing on, and all that other stuff is stuff that I can't affect any change on it from here. So I'm going to put it in the background, and when I get off work, I can deal with it. and hopefully I do the same thing when I leave work. Sometimes I feel like it's harder to leave work at work than it is to leave home at home. So
This is obviously a huge hazard of your job. You see your your job is constantly seeing traumatic things. Can you say more about how your team helps each other to do the best they can to leave work at work?
well, my team is very good about when you have one of those situations, making you talk about it. Um, it's if you bottle that stuff up, and I've done it at points in my career. If you bottle that stuff up, it's going to affect you negatively down the line. And just talking about it actually is probably the biggest thing about letting it go, getting rid of it, being able to deal with it. Um, and
How does talking about that stuff help?
well, I guess part of this job is questioning whether you did the right thing or not. And when you talk to your peers, maybe they're going to have some constructive criticism, which you have to be open to. You have to in this job. You have to be able to be criticized because you're never going to grow in it if you don't take advice and accept constructive criticism. Now, negative criticism, I've got no time for. None. Constructive criticism, you can tell me all day as long as there's a solution to. I'll take advice all day. That's all it's going to do is make me better. So you have to be open to that constructive criticism, but also I think just acknowledging that something happened, like saying the words and hearing somebody say and truly mean that they're hearing what you're saying, and maybe even feeling some of the pain or anger or frustration that you felt. There's something about that allows you to let it go. I guess we're kind of each of our partners or teammates therapist in a way. And we all have been through maybe not the exact same situation but similar situations, and it's always good to have another viewpoint on something. Sometimes there'll be things that you bottle up that you think are the biggest, most terrible things in the world, and when you do end up talking about it, the person that you're talking to puts it in perspective and you're like, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. I guess that isn't. So we're really good about that, though. We really are.
That's really good. So I want to ask as well, wrapping up, what from through your job for 26 years, thousands of missions, what have you learned in general about the similarities and differences between people?
I think we are all an awful lot more same than we are different. Um, um, I think that fear and pain and those things actually do affect everybody pretty much the same. That our reaction to it is what makes us different from each other. And so you may have a patient that two patients have the exact same injuries, and one is stoic and calm, and the other is hysterical and freaking out. And both are right. I mean, for their situation, they're both doing the best they can at that moment. And I guess really they're the same. I really think people are very much the same. It doesn't.
How has your job increased how much you care about humanity?
To be quite honest, a lot, because when I started nursing, I had just come out of mental health, and I was working with adolescents, and they were kids in trouble with the law and a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't really there was a really hard group to work with, and I did not have a real high opinion of humanity. And the more I do this job, the more I see that everybody at their core is, I say just, but I'm not minimizing it, but everybody is just a person, you know. People, a lot of people make bad choices and end up in bad situations, but still, they're a person, and I've, I guess it really has made me feel hopeful for humanity. I don't, you know, I don't know. I'm just trying to do my part to help things along. So.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's a good answer or not. I kind of rambled there, but
it is powerful because you have a very unique perspective. You get to see so many lives on such a different level than many of us do. Thank you.
well,
One more question. In these podcasts, I always ask my guests what imperfect best means to them, and what it means to me is I envision my best and go for it, but when I make mistakes or experience obstacles, instead of giving up, I try to learn from all of that and move forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you? No, Rob.
well, I am about as far from perfect as you can get. So I do my imperfect best every day, I hope, you know. But it means that knowing flat out starting out that I'm not going to do anything perfectly. Like my goal is to minimize the impact of my imperfection on whatever, whether it be a patient, whether it be a task at home, whether it be a relationship, whatever. My goal is to minimize the damage of any imperfection first, and then, like you said, to learn from it. An obstacle is, I'm not even sure an obstacle is an imperfection, actually, in my mind. An obstacle is something to be figured out and to either gone through or over. You know, it's life is all obstacles. And I think that once we realize that, we can actually start living life. You know, don't get upset. Don't feel sorry for yourself because something's in your way. Figure out a way around it or over it, you know, or through it, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I think that's, I guess, maybe after sitting in the ground blind for 24 hours and pondering things about my career and life for 54 years, that's what life's about. It's about those obstacles. It's not about the easy times. It's the hard things that we do that make us who we are. It's the hard things that we do that give us our sense of accomplishment. You know, if life was easy, everybody would be, you know, fat and happy. And I'm not sure that's what the things are supposed to be either, you know. I wrestled in high school and I learned to enjoy the struggle, the grind, the pain, the long hours, the whatever it is, but that dedication to whatever you're doing. And I've hopefully applied that to my life, I guess one thing I would say as far as crisis situations that has gotten me through an awful lot of things is my football coach in high school once said, no matter what, act like you've been there before. Meaning, if you've never scored a touchdown before, when you score your first touchdown, act like you've scored 1,000 of them. Don't showboat. Don't, just be humble and act like you've done this a million times. And it's the same in crisis situations. On the negative side, if there's a lot of pressure and stuff, even if you haven't been through that exact thing, act like you have. Tell yourself that it's okay, and act like you have, because your reaction to that situation is going to have an effect on everybody around you, if we're talking about patient care, on the patient, on the patient's family, on the other health care workers around you. And oftentimes it's just one calm person can make the difference. Absolutely make the difference. And it doesn't matter if it's you or somebody else, but in my case, I'm always trying for it to be me. It's not always me, but I'm always trying for it to be me, to be that calm person. Because if I can stay calm and somebody else can look at me and say, okay, they're calm, so maybe I can be calm. All of a sudden, maybe it spreads and everybody's calm. And now we can really get some work done, because all of that sympathetic nervous system stuff has been conquered because everybody's calmed down. And maybe I haven't been there before, and maybe I haven't even been close to there before. But if I stay calm and I can get that to spread, I think, that's a key to accomplishing whatever the mission is, whether it be healthcare or your finances or, trouble in a relationship or whatever it is. But staying calm is that key, I think.
Gosh, man, you just brought so much. I have so many goosebumps right now. what you said in that answer is so profound. But the thing, I encourage people to go back to what you just said because it's profound. But the thing I want to end with is you said oftentimes just one calm person can make a difference. Oh my gosh. What a inspiration for us all to do our best to be that calm person in all the situations of life. Thank you so much, Nasra, for all the good work you do, for all the heroic teams you are on, and thanks for your time and being on the podcast.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. We just spent a little over an hour talking with someone who makes a living helping people in crisis situations, and all the wisdom Rob imparted about doing the best we can in crisis situations. I find it invaluable for my life and what I do in the world, and I hope you do too. Thanks so much for tuning into Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Please tune in next week for another episode, and remember, you can be that one calm person in a crisis situation that spreads calm out. Thanks for being you. Have a wonderful day. and I'm going to be smiling for a while because I'm just